What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. Today, guys, I'm uploading my personal top 25 for week 4. So, again, this is just my updated top 25. It's not a prediction for the AP poll, as the AP poll and coaches poll are already out. But I do wait for them to come out because I like to compare them to my poll as soon as they come out. Again, I make my poll before the rankings come out. It's not like a thing. You guys know this by now if you've seen my polls. But yeah, this is my updated poll before week 4. So after week 3, lots of movement towards the bottom half of the poll. You'll see some movement in the top, but again, I'll explain once I get there. First off, I want to apologize for lighting today. It's probably going to be a little eerie. In fact, green screen stuff might interfere. So I apologize if that is the case. Hopefully it's not, but anyways, guys, if you guys are enjoying my videos and you want to see more from me, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment below, share, do all that fun stuff. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into my top 25. All right, dropped out of my top 25. It was really close between Virginia Tech and UCLA on who was going to be number 25. And ultimately, guys, I probably decided to tie them at number 25. But UCLA does remain in the poll because they were ahead of Virginia Tech last week, so I kept them ahead this week. And also, when you see where I've rated the respective teams that they've lost to, that's also why I kept UCLA at the poll. But so that means Virginia Tech dropped out, Arizona State dropped out, as did Miami and UCF. Of course, all 4 of those teams lost this week. But my first 5 out does include Arizona State and Virginia Tech. It also includes TCU, Liberty, Oklahoma State. You could throw UCF back in there if you'd like. Kansas State is another team that comes to mind as well. Some other teams there as well that you could slide into the top 25 here. But again, just my personal opinion. I've decided not to. Let's go ahead and get into the top 25. At number 25 is UCLA. I've already mentioned it before. It was close between them and Virginia Tech on who to drop out. I decided to put UCLA in because the team they lost to, Fresno State, is higher than the team that Virginia Tech lost to in West Virginia. Speaking of which, West Virginia, you see there at 23, a really good win over a good Virginia Tech team. So West Virginia, I felt like I had to put in the poll. They're not rated in any of the AP USA Today polls, which after those came out, I was kind of shocked that didn't happen. But alas, West Virginia, a team that surely should be ranked in the top 25 in my opinion. Yes, they lost that first game of the season to Maryland. That's another team you could put in the rankings if you would like. But for West Virginia, look, I think this team has a lot of talent offensively and defensively. Getting into Big 12 play, they're going to have a lot of opportunities to prove that. So for West Virginia, I do think this is a good team. I think they're top 25 worthy. I have them at number 23. Again, I've already talked about UCLA. Let's talk about Auburn. So Auburn, I did not move. And you might be thinking, well, they lost. Shouldn't they drop out? Yeah, but they lost to a really good Penn State team. And it was their first real test of the season. And it was against one of the best teams in college football. And they held their own. They held their own for pretty much the entirety of that game. Yep, see, there's lighting stuff now. But I decided not to move Auburn up or down. Because I felt like they had proven what they needed to prove. Now, they do have a tough schedule, and if they end up losing a couple more, probably might drop out of the poll. But again, depends on how they play, who they lose to, right? For these polls, I don't just say, well, you lost, you can drop out. No. Auburn lost to a good team in the whiteout, one of the hardest places, if not the toughest environment to play in all of college football. I know people are going to have their opinions about that, and that's a topic for another day. But for Auburn, they don't move. They're going to remain here at number 24. Again, still ranked in both the AP and USA Today polls. Michigan State, boy, was I wrong about the Spartans in the preseason. I did not think this team was going to be that good at all. And now they're in my rankings at number 22. That was a really impressive win over Miami. And I still think Miami has some good talent and overall can be a good team. They just haven't shown it yet. So if you're looking for disappointments in the year, Miami is going to be your number 1 go-to right now. But what an impressive win for the Spartans. That was a great win. Kenneth Walker had another huge game. I would like to see Michigan State's passing attack get better, and I think it can get better, but their defense is playing solid. Kenneth Walker is a great addition for the Spartan team, and they have kind of a sneaky game this week with Nebraska, so might be previewing that one. But for Michigan State, they find themselves in the rankings. Talked about Fresno State a little bit here, but look, this was a team that gave Oregon a run for their money. They just beat UCLA. They did it with a hobbled Jake Haener, who led a game-winning drive. Hurt, just all around great performances thus far by Fresno State. Again, they've played 4 games because they played in week 0. But Fresno State absolutely deserving of a top 25 spot. Last year, I considered them, even though they already had a loss. Now you have to put them in because they beat UCLA. Fresno State is an incredible team with some incredible talent that, again, I also overlooked in the offseason. All right, let's go ahead and get into the top 20 here. And you see another team that was not rated in my poll last week, and that is the Michigan Wolverines. So Michigan, again, was a team that just got beat up by BYU last week. For that number 25 spot. They would have been my number 26, and now they find themselves into the poll at number 20, a Michigan team that has relied on the ground game thus far, and hey, it has done them no wrong. It's been fantastic, one of the best rush games in all of college football up to this point. The pass game I would like to see get better, right? You have Cade McNamara, JJ McCarthy. Don't forget about Alan Bowman there at Michigan as well. Hasn't played yet this year, I do believe, but could prove to be an impactful player down the line if he were to happen to get into a game, if, say, McNamara got hurt, or if Bowman, finally gets his chance, because Bowman, shown flashes of being a good quarterback, just hasn't really stayed healthy and gotten that chance. I think if he were to play at Michigan, he would get that chance. So, again, passing game, something to work on with Michigan, just like their rivals in their own state, in Michigan State, work on the pass game, and they can be huge threats to the Big Ten Conference. Arkansas is at number 19. They move up 2 spots from last week. Again, just a solid win this week overall, and they get a test this week. They're going to play Texas A&M. Definitely will be previewing that game on Thursday when that video comes out. But for Arkansas, this is a really good team. This is a good team. We all knew they were going to be underrated coming into this year. And again, much like Auburn, they have a hard schedule. So we'll see if they can maintain their place in the poll. Have a hard one against Texas A&M, but they get them at home. Going to be an interesting one there. I am picking, or excuse me. Ooh, I almost spoiled who I was picking in that game. That would have been bad. But again, I moved up Arkansas 2 spots there. And that one, all right. Coastal Carolina is number 18. They did not move from last week. Again, Coastal Carolina, a pretty good game against Buffalo to watch. But again, they struggled against Buffalo at times, so I didn't move them. Probably would have jumped them ahead of the 2 teams you see above them in North Carolina and Wisconsin. Wisconsin had a bye, and again, it was just the case of other teams are passing them. Same thing with North Carolina. They played pretty well offensively this week against Virginia. Again, that quarterback for Virginia had almost 500 passing yards. Not a whole lot you can do about that. Great performance by him. North Carolina can play better defensively. But for the 3 teams I just mentioned there, Coastal Carolina, again, you have a pretty soft schedule, but now you're going to get into Sun Belt play. You're going to have a couple chances to maybe boost your ranking, as there are some good teams in the Sun Belt. For North Carolina, it's just keep getting better. Again, the polls, I think, have them rated too low. Yes, this North Carolina team stumbled in week 1, but we know what this North Carolina team can be. And offensively, they've shown that up to this point. It's just about getting better on the defensive side. And for Wisconsin, it's about the opposite, getting better on the offensive side. They have a huge chance to prove how good their offense can be against Notre Dame this week. Again, another game that I will be previewing. So, guys, there are a lot of interesting games on this week. So watch out for my preview on Thursday. Again, Wisconsin, North Carolina, I dropped each 2 spots because there were teams that passed them. And the 2 teams that passed them are Ole Miss and BYU. So BYU shooting up 10 spots from last week. As you'll know, I had them at 25. Yeah, this is the highest. This is the biggest mover in my poll this season. BYU jumping up 10 spots. I've had teams that have jumped up 9, 8 spots. Never had a team jump up double digits. That is what BYU has done here this week. They have moved up to 10th overall. And I don't count non-rated teams. UCLA technically would have, yes, but no. So for BYU, I think this BYU team is better than last year's BYU team. Now, I know they don't have the NFL caliber quarterback of Zach Wilson, but if you remember what happened a couple years ago, Zach Wilson came in and was good. Wasn't NFL good, but was a good quarterback, and BYU flew under the radar. And then just last year, Zach Wilson, NFL level talent, NFL level arm, was really good. And BYU went to an undefeated season. This year, it's a better team because with Jaren Hall at BYU, he is showing that he has the talent. And then next year, once he comes out as that starter, probably could show some NFL caliber type talent, right? So for BYU, this is an interesting time to be a BYU fan because you're probably going to be favored in the rest of the games you have coming up. They do get a game against Utah State coming up here, so that's going to be an interesting one. Couple games on the road against Power 5 opponents such as Baylor, Washington State, and then, of course, at the end of the season, USC. So it's going to be interesting to watch this BYU team from here on out. We'll see how they do. Ole Miss is at number 14. They jump up 5 spots, and I keep getting more and more impressed with the way this Ole Miss team is playing. Look, defensively, they've looked good. As you know, I think Tulane is a really good team. I think Tulane has a good offense, and they held them to only 21 points while scoring 61 of their own. And for wow, I mean for Matt Corral, 7 total touchdowns in that game as well. Matt Corral is having himself quite the season. And right now, probably my pick to win the Heisman, although I'm still going to stick with Sam Howell until something changes. But Matt Corral sneaking his way up those Heisman ranking boards, as is Ole Miss. Look, that defense is just getting better. In a couple weeks here, they're going to get some chances to prove themselves. Games against Bama, LSU coming up, right? Texas A&M on the horizon as well. You have Auburn down the line. So there are still a lot of interesting games on the schedule for Ole Miss. Again, this is the team that I really like and is rising and is going to continue to rise as long as they play like they've been playing thus far. The 13 through 11 did not change. I'll go through my reasoning of why. Iowa State did not change because Florida played Alabama as good as they did. Alabama looked vulnerable in that game, yes, but Florida also took advantage of it. And Florida's defense played pretty well at times and kind of maybe a little bit, in my opinion, destroyed the narrative that Florida doesn't have a good defense, so to speak. I think it destroyed some of that narrative. Florida's defense stepped up and played well at times, albeit Alabama didn't look the best at times either, but at times they also played really well. So for both of those teams there in Alabama and Florida, I didn't move them. Hey, that's a hint on who's number one. For Iowa State, I didn't move them. Well, couldn't really move them up or down. I couldn't drop them below Ole Miss, not just yet. I know both of the polls have Ole Miss ahead of Iowa State, but I can't do it just yet. Again, we'll see what happens later down the line. I think Ole Miss has some better chances to prove themselves in Iowa State in the next coming weeks. But again, we will see how they perform. But again, didn't move Iowa State. You blow the brakes off of UNLV after a disappointing loss to your rival in Iowa. But again, Iowa looks really good. So I didn't move them. And I didn't move Notre Dame because that offensive line finally got it together. I know people are going to say Notre Dame, not a top 25 team. They're going to say that with Wisconsin as well. Look, Notre Dame is a team that has the talent, clearly. And Jack Cohn played well in that game against Purdue. And that offensive line finally got their stuff together in that game against Purdue as well. So this is going to be a very interesting game against Wisconsin in Soldier Field. It's going to be very interesting to watch that game there. Notre Dame is here at number 11. Let's jump into the top 10. If you'll notice, not a team in the top 10 changed, although the order did change. I've kept Ohio State at 10. I still need to see that defense get better if Ohio State wants to continue to climb and get closer towards playoff status. Because right now, again, Ohio State still in the playoff conversation. And as an Ohio State fan, don't necessarily want them to make the playoff right now because of that defense. So if Ohio State can figure out that defense, they could be sitting a lot higher in the poll. Texas A&M and Clemson each dropped a couple of spots because, well, Penn State moved up. So Cincinnati did not move. And as much as I wanted to move Cincinnati above Penn State, in fact, when I first made my rankings after both those games finished, I did. But right before the AP poll came out, I decided to switch them. Because I felt like Penn State beating Auburn is a little bit more of a feat than Cincinnati beating Indiana. Granted, Cincinnati beating Indiana on the road yes, what a feat it is. But Penn State just looks so good. Penn State really does look good, and they didn't seem to struggle in that game at all. While the game had its moments of Auburn coming close and Auburn was in the lead, same thing happened, but Cincinnati struggled during that game. So I jumped Penn State up. That was a hell of a win in the whiteout against Auburn. For Cincinnati, hey, you are definitely not out of this. You have a bye week next week, and then you have a chance a couple of weeks here to pull off another statement win on the road against Notre Dame. That is going to be a heck of a game to watch as well. Again, for Texas A&M, I got to see them play a little bit better, especially Zach Calzada with Haynes King being out. Again, got Arkansas this week. Interesting game. And then for Clemson, that offense struggled against Georgia Tech. It's been the same story all year. Clemson does not seem to have an offense right now. So Clemson got to get that figured out before they can continue to move higher. In the ACC, might miss out on the college football playoff. Breaking story, right? Clemson is the best shot to get in, but they have a lot to fix. And then for Penn State, again, I've already talked about it. Great win against Auburn. They are very close to being a top 5 team, but the problem is the top 5 teams did not change, although I did switch 2 teams around here, and the AP poll did the same. They had the same thinking as I did. So Bama, Georgia remain 1 and 2, and Iowa remains 5. Don't have a lot to say about their respective games. In fact, Georgia, pretty good win against South Carolina. Iowa, good win against a pretty solid Kent State team. And for Alabama, they looked vulnerable. So I think that gap between 1 and 2 there is closing. It was like this last week. Now it's probably like this, right? So Bama, Georgia, going to be fighting it out for that number 1 spot all year. And you might see some instances where Georgia has a big game that week, then Alabama does it, then Georgia jumps. And then when the reverse happens, they flip again. It's going to be like an Ohio State LSU kind of scenario a couple of years ago where you kept seeing them flop 1 and 2. So it could be like that. We'll see what happens there. Oregon moves up to number 3. Again, looked good in the win against Stony Brook after the upset to Ohio State. And now that Fresno State beats UCLA, makes Oregon look a hell of a lot better, right? And then Oklahoma struggled with Nebraska at times, but I felt like Nebraska played by far their best game I've seen them play in years, like actually years. That was the best game I've seen Nebraska play in years. And for Oklahoma, yes, you had your struggles at times. A lot of people thought you should have beaten Nebraska by more, but it's still a good win. Nebraska is not as bad of a team as they have been in years past. Although, again, still some things to figure out at Nebraska, right? Oklahoma's got a lot of things to work out as well. Why I dropped them a spot there also was because of the win that Fresno State just had over UCLA. That's why the 2 teams flipped in my mind. The USA Today coaches poll didn't flip them. In fact, they also still have Texas A&M at number 5, which is weird to me. Iowa, to me, definitely is a top 5 team. And that showdown between Iowa, Penn State in a couple of weeks, what a big game that's going to be, huh? Yeah, that game is going to be huge. Ohio State, Penn State, that one's going to be huge as well. So lots of interesting games still to come. But guys, we're already a fourth of the way through the college football season. How crazy is that? A fourth of the way through the college football season. Most teams have played three games. Again, I know some have played 2, some have played 4. You guys know, but most teams have already played 3 games. Most teams quarter of the way through the season. We'll see what progresses from this point on. This is shaping out to be one of the most interesting college football seasons that I have ever watched. And I don't remember 2007 that well. That was probably the most eventful college football season in history. This one might end up topping it. Guys, there's a lot of chaos to come, a lot of upsets to come, a lot of big games still to come. This is my top 5 as of right now, but who knows? A week from today, things could look different. Probably aren't a lot of big games involving top 5 teams, but there are some big games involving teams within the top 25. I will preview more of those on Thursday. Again, when I do my preview of the top 10 games I'm most excited to watch. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys in the next video, which again, I still have that playoff picture video still in the works. I don't know if it'll be released this week. But if it's not released this week, it will be released next week. So the next video I'm planning on doing is my review on Thursday, but you might see a video about the playoff picture come Tuesday or Wednesday. So I'll see you guys later on this week. Goodbye.